G'day, g'day, g'day. It's the Mathematical KM here, Keith Malumbi. The KM are initials, not a title. And on that, today I was playing a good friend of mine who's more than he's 1664 and I'm 1457. So a little more than 200 rating points above me. And let's see how we go putting our time into the water horse this year. I had the black pieces as well, so it's definitely uphill. Let's see how we went. Just a little bit of a hint here. With the black pieces, I had the brilliancy and I had the great move. And we'll get to that in the end. So let's see. Let's put this onto so you can see the lines. Okay, he starts with the E pawn. I bring out the G pawn. Londony. Now, just in terms of, I know it's the same 10 moves for the Hippo every time, but whenever a bishop comes here, that's the next move. In some cases, the Hippo 10 moves are done in a particular order. So that's stopping that bishop. Okay, that knight can't come here or here. It can move there. Prophylaxis be thy name. Computer doesn't like it, but on the other hand, I'm denying entry to my half of the board while playing my 10, setting up the Hippo moves. Another knight comes out. That knight was able to come here. So too that bishop could have come here, giving me a check. Prophylaxis. Denied. Okay, finishing his little setting up the pawn chain over there with white. And on that allowed that bishop to come in, so let's go h6. Develops his bishop. Fianchetto. He castles. Bring the knight into e7. Okay, he sets up a cannon aimed here. This stops black from castling on the king side and indicates that cannon's going that way. His light bishop's kind of pointing that way more than it is that way as well. I'm already starting to think I'm probably going to think very hard about castling queenside and attacking his king, opposite side castling. Let's see how we go with that. And on that move, that was a possibility to shift that bishop with tempo, but watching some of Solomon's games, when you think you might be going to castle queenside, you're better off with these pawns like so. So I don't think I'm going to chase that light bishop and try and catch it. That'll completely muck up my king safety over here. So I'm just going to bring it out to the normal Hippo starting square. He backed his bishop up anyway, so there was no need for my pawn to have gone there. Okay. Fianchetto. He's brought his H-pawn forward, giving a bit of a hook there. Okay, we now have the full thick-skinned Hippo. And it's a strange thing here, and if Solomon's watching this, and I'll ask him about this. How often is it that when you've got the standard full thick-skinned Hippo setup, that you've actually got minus half a point to black? That's nice. Used to being a little bit behind because of the lack of space grabbing. I guess the computer's telling white he hasn't grabbed enough space. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, as we move along. He's rerouting his knight because his knight couldn't go anywhere with how the Hippo had set up. It's also, I guess, another defender of his king in there. And it allows a f-pawn push, which he might be thinking about. F-pawn push could go well with that battery. So what do we do? I'm thinking put some pressure on that bishop and also on, if I can just get that there, the pawns in that chain there. So we'll see how that goes. And we're out to 1.2 to black, developing the knight in a way that's making some threats. Okay, the knight comes forward. We now have 1, 2, 3 pieces attacking my h-pawn after he rerouted his knight to make it a little more useful. I've only got the 2 defenders. What are we going to do? And the simplest, and it's good that we're not planning on castling kingside, bang. Now the knight is only attacking the h-pawn, and the battery is going for the g-pawn. And what's more, while I've only got one defender of the g-pawn, that defender is a pawn, so it would be a bishop sacrifice were white to come flying forward there. But again, it looked a bit like f5 might be coming. But we're still 1.7 to black. So I'm playing pretty well, down 200 elo here. Or is it just the hippopotamus opening? Let's see how we go. Okay, he didn't like that deal, so the knight goes back. I develop my queen. Apart from anything else, getting ready to queenside castle because this is all going to explode a little bit over here. It also lets the queen look this way a little bit. And the queen becomes a defender for the king. Sorry, the queen is a defender for the knight should I castle queenside. From there. Here comes that f-pawn. And we're looking at move 14. It is interesting, computer at 2.7 to black. Computer likes just taking the pawn. Take the pawn. Let's see. The video in the way. Let's have a little look. You can see if I take the pawn, his bishop takes it, and then I play f5, and it's all a bit more peaceful. But in some ways, and I did play the third best move, and it's minus 2.1, so not that far down. Increasing the tension in here. I've got 2 pieces, including a pawn, on his e-pawn. He's got 2 defenders, one of which is a pawn, but that knight can be made to go away. And then maybe I can win that e-pawn. I'm thinking about that. I'm also thinking, should he just take with the pawn? I'll take back with the pawn. That frees my rook. I'm going to lose a pawn, but the way I'm seeing it is I'm going to gain a lot of activity with that rook, and I'll be castling queenside and bringing another rook across, and I think his king's safety will be lower than mine. So let's see how this does go down. He does indeed take the g-pawn. I take back, he takes. My h-rook is now free. It's giving 1.6 to black, so white's gone up a point of material, but black's up, given an eval of 1.6, so kind of 2.6 if you forget the pawn that he's grabbed. So I should be able to get some activity out of all this. The bishop's threatening that knight. The knight's protected by the queen. What do we do? Let's get rid of that knight and double his pawns. Computer would have liked me to castle straight away or back the bishop up with the rook now. or give a check with the bishop, which would have forced him to move the king. I doubt he would have blocked. As it is, I've doubled his pawns, and it's now only half a point to black. So, yep, bit of a thing there. Maybe my bishop was a better piece than his knight, thinking about it, which is what I think the computer's saying. Okay, so coming into move 17. And castle. So it's getting me 2 rooks, and there are 2 open files, 2 half open files looking at his king. Still got the advantage to black. His pawn takes. Now, I'm a bit worried about he's got a pawn and a bishop, both on attacking my e-pawn, and whatever ends up there, if it ends up being a bishop, it might be pinning a queen to my king. I don't like any of that. And in fact, getting rid of one of the 2 attackers on my e-pawn, knight times b3, is actually the top move, and played. He takes back. Still roughly a little bit of an edge, but not that much. But we're down 2 points of material, and we're up in the eval, so we must have some activity, and I think both players could feel the activity that black has at this point. Okay, so my move 19. The computer likes e times f5, just taking that pawn and being protected by a pinned knight. But it would have got that pawn out of the way, and maybe that would have been good. But I'll line up on the bishop with the rook. The rook that's come across from D. So now it's +2 to white. So there goes my positional advantage and everything. But I think it's a fairly sharp game, as the coach said. And white's going to need to find the right moves, otherwise his second and third best are back with an edge to black. And looking at it, the move he needed to find was f6 have the pawn threaten the knight, and if I move the knight, I guess the pawn could come forward threatening the rook. That pawn would become even worse and a real nightmare for me to deal with. But fortunately for me, he's played the third best move, f times e6, giving so that's a swing of 2.09 to minus 0.31, 2.4 eval difference. So I'm lucky my opponent didn't find that move, but he's taken. Let's threaten the queen. And at the time I was pretty happy with the next move that I found. And I wonder, it's the computer does like it. That's not the brilliancy, that I think is just great, but the cunningness here is I might even call this video the Poison Knight. Oh look, I've left a knight hanging. It would be beautiful. And a lesser opponent might have taken the hanging knight, in front of his advanced pawn, all sorts of good reasons. Nothing to do with my queen. Were he to take my knight, I'd have check, protected by the bishop, you see. King would have to move here, and maybe I could look for better. I'm not sure if there is, but the worst case is then grabbing a pawn, and then it's check from the bishop, and then winning the queen. He'd have to take that back, and, it would be beautiful. But I think he knows he can't move that bishop. And I've now got 2 pieces threatening the bishop. He can't move the bishop. He's only got one defender of the bishop. So what does my esteemed opponent do? Oh, look, and it's given a star, not a bad move. He gets himself a second defender. Now, I thought about this for a bit. My whole rook forward, rook over, rook gain queen, 2 pawns and a queen, I think that still works, even if I lose a rook here. If he moves the bishop, I can still implement that plan. Therefore, bang. And that one's the brilliancy. Now, take the free poisonous knight. Take the free poisonous rook. Do one of these things, my opponent. Come on, Matt. Now, what does he actually do? Let's see. I've played rook times h4. And instead of taking the rook with his bishop, he plays knight to f3, which interestingly isn't one of the main choices. His best choice to keep it close to even is rook to f2, to give himself another defender on that deadly square. And also somehow if I did get the rook in there, his king could move to the right instead of having to go to the left where the bishop lines up. So yeah, I can see rook f2 is best. Second best, rook to a4. Giving him a second piece threatening this rook. That'd be interesting. It's still minus 1.75 to me. And it might be, not sure if I'd go into checks or swapping the rook off instead of having it just offered up. And his third best was queen to d2, doing a similar thing, giving him another protector on that pawn. But if the plan did happen, the king would still need to move left. As it is, my opponent plays knight to f3, which does give 2 pieces on that rook. So the knight would take it, not the bishop. And if the knight does take it, the knight is then defending the g2. So I can see how it makes sense. But simple moves in life are often the best. Computer is saying that I should really have just wiped that knight off the board with my bishop. He'd probably take it with his rook, and then I'd double my rooks up and things would still be looking pretty good. I'd have the 2 rooks coming at the king and the queen not too far away. Oh, it wasn't to happen. What I did play was, at the moment, if his knight, I was thinking, if his knight were to take my rook, it'd be nice if I could take it back with my knight, and then the whole tension, the whole plan is very much still exactly how it's been, with the threat of this rook to come here, check, king goes left, I move that, it's check, discover check by the bishop, and I can win the queen. So, just in order to stop that knight from being able to come here, and also moving my knight out of the way of that bishop, I played... I thought about playing and didn't play, and instead played rook across. Ouch. Oh, the rooks are both safe, and if the bishop does take the poisonous knight that's been there sitting and hanging for the whole game, then I can come in and check. Then moving the rook is not going to give a discovered check after that, though. That would be interesting. It's still minus, so I've maintained some threats. It's -3. My opponent decides to run with his king. It goes to 6.7. And again, what I should do is whip off that knight that's just too close to the king and too powerful. That's the best move. It's this part of the game that I do need to work on. Queen to c5. Putting in a check, but I would have thought he could just block that check with a pawn. That's second best, still -5.5. And rook 8 times g5. And that's -5.5. So rook 8 times g5 is -5.5. Now I played... Oh, I won't do it. Let's go through. And it's -3.5. So I did it with the wrong rook, but not entirely sure why. He takes, I take. So I've gotten 2 pieces for the rook. So he's got 3 pieces. I've got 4 pieces. So a rook versus a knight and a bishop. The bishop's a pretty good piece, and the knight's got the potential. So -4 to black at the moment. Coming into move 25. King to e1. Bishop takes g2. Really meant to have used that bishop. Now, white's threat is a back spanker. I've got a lot of pressure on his king, but I either need to be playing a check or have removed the threat of the back spanker. This is move 25. The bishop takes g2 is best because not only does it win a pawn and threaten the rook, it gives the king a safety square. If white's rook were to come, the king can run. Bishop c6, well, that gives the king the same safety square. And king b8 gives the king a safety square. Nice to know there are so many ways of giving that king a safety square, as you will see. Because at this deep 200 elo down, playing with the black pieces, here we are at move 25 at +5 for black. And the game does not go much further. Sad to say. Check or defend the back spanker? Went with check. It is true that his second and third best moves are forced mates, but my opponent's good enough to find the best move, which drops it to just -1 1/3. Now I can still see that, I mean, I've got dreams of taking with the rook and coming in with the queen, but that's 2 moves. It's not going to get that many all in one go. And again, bishop takes g2 to give the king an out. Bishop f3 wins the queen. Would have been nice to have noticed that one. Check. Oh, not necessarily. Let's see. He takes with the rook. because if I could get my rook to there, it would skewer the king to the queen. I do take g2 anyway, queen e3, and the game goes on, but it's at -1. It's not that bad. It's the third best move. Just taking that pawn, giving the space, and threatening the rook. But the very best one was rook to g8 and just no back spanking for you, not while I've got a rook there. And even king to b8, and the other one that was mentioned in the previous moves, would have been okay. But if you ever want a lesson in how not to deny the back spanker, yeah, straight to +7 for white. It's having played the move and thought about it a bit, shook hands, all over. Queen takes rook. Best I can do is maybe knight to check. And then, of course, he's going to take the... Let's see. He takes, I check. Couldn't take his queen because it would be the back spanker, which I never got rid of. But I could see that coming, and I'd already shaken hands. So against my esteemed friend Matt, 200 elo points up. 25 moves into a pretty solid Hippo. Pretty much had him on the ropes. And yeah, just some more practice at endgames. The Hippo is regularly getting me into the late, middle, early endgames in a good posse. Just got to work on putting the ball in the hoop. But yeah, beautiful game. And the poisonous knight never got taken, I don't think. Let's go back through that. Nope. However, it lived to cost me the game. If only he'd taken the poisonous knight. Anyway, bye for now.